Her old friend, now the bride, had invited her to the wedding just to humiliate her in front of hundreds of guests. The moment she walked in, the entire ballroom turned to stare. "Did that dress come from a thrift store?" someone whispered. Another voice hissed, "Still living that broke girl life, huh?" They mocked her, live-streamed her shame, and kicked her out of the ceremony like she was nothing. But just minutes later, a fleet of Rolls-Royces pulled up outside the chapel. And when the most powerful man in the room walked in and took her hand, the entire wedding fell into stunned silence. They had just humiliated the wrong black woman, because she was the groom's greatest benefactor and the wife of a billionaire. This was no ordinary wedding. It was the union of Sienna Mallory, a fashion influencer with 1 million followers, and Caleb Mercer, a tech entrepreneur whose startup had just sold for $300 million. The guest list was a who's who of influencers, CEOs, and minor royalty. Naomi stepped into the lobby alone, her linen dress, a soft square-necked piece in beige, swaying gently as she moved. The dress was simple, unadorned, falling just above her ankles. Her chestnut hair was pulled into a low bun secured with a wooden pin, and her only accessory was a small recycled paper package tucked under her arm, tied with twine. At 36, Naomi's beauty was understated, but striking. Her flats, worn but polished, clicked softly on the marble floor as she approached the guest check-in. The concierge, a sleek woman named Camille with a headset and a clipboard, glanced up from her podium. Her eyes swept over Naomi, lingering on the absence of jewelry, the plain dress, the lack of a designer bag, and her smile tightened. "Service staff used the side entrance," she said, her tone polite but clipped, pointing to a hallway marked personnel only. Naomi's lips curved into a faint, patient smile. "I'm a guest," she said, her voice calm, like a stream smoothing over stones. She handed over her invitation, a cream card with gold-embossed lettering. Naomi Ellis. Camille's brow arched as she took the card, flipping it over as if expecting a barcode or a typo. "One moment," she said, stepping away to murmur into her headset. Naomi stood quietly, the recycled paper gift held close as the first wave of guests swept past. A trio of women in shimmering gowns, one in ruby velvet, another in black sequins, the third in a feathered ivory dress, paused, their laughter sharp and sudden. "Is that the caterer?" the woman in ruby said loud enough for the lobby to hear. Her name was Elise Morrow, a lifestyle vlogger with the penchant for savage Instagram captions. The other two, Sophia Reyes, a beauty brand Aries, and Tara Clean, a reality TV star, giggled, their eyes raking Naomi's outfit. "What's with the gift wrap? Did she rob a recycling bin?" Sophia said, snapping a photo with her phone. "This will be viral content." Naomi didn't flinch. Her expression serene but steady, like someone who'd faced sharper winds and kept walking. "It's a gift from the heart," she said softly, her tone polite but firm. Elise blinked, thrown by the quiet confidence, then smirked. "Oh, sweetie, this isn't a craft fair." The lobby buzzed as more guests arrived. They formed a loose semicircle around Naomi, drawn by the spectacle. A tech mogul named Victor Chen, his cufflinks glinting with emeralds, leaned toward his wife, Leia, and muttered, "Who let the hippie in? This isn't a farmer's market." Leia, draped in sapphire silk, laughed, her voice carrying, "But she's here to pitch some shop." A younger guest, an NFT influencer named Jax, called out, "Yo, wrong venue, lady." Their laughter swelled, phones flashing, framing Naomi as a punchline before she could speak. Camille returned, now flanked by a wedding planner named Margot, a wiry woman with a severe bun and a tablet glowing with schedules. "Hey girl," Margot said, her voice dripping with skepticism. "Your invitation is valid." But she paused, eyeing Naomi's dress. "This is a high society event. You don't seem prepared for the occasion. Perhaps you're on the wrong floor. The staff meal is downstairs." Naomi's fingers tightened briefly around her gift, the only sign of strain in her composed posture. "I'm here for Sienna and Caleb," she said, her voice even. "I was invited." Margot's lips pursed, and she tapped her tablet. "Well, there's no name card for you, and the seating chart is final." "I'm sorry." but you'll need to leave. Before Naomi could respond, Sienna Mallory appeared. She glided toward the check-in, her entourage trailing like planets orbiting a star. Her eyes landed on Naomi, and her smile froze, then twisted into something sharp. "Naomi," Sienna said, her voice loud enough to draw every eye in the lobby. "Oh my God, you actually came." She laughed, a brittle performative sound, and turned to her bridesmaids. "Guys, this is Naomi Ellis, my old school friend. Still living that, what do you call it? Authentic life fantasy." The bridesmaids, Elise, Sophia, and Tara, burst into laughter, their phones already out. "That dress looks like it came from a thrift store," Tara said, zooming in on Naomi's flats. "And those shoes, honey, no." Elise leaned in, her ruby gown rustling. "Naomi, babe, this is $1 million wedding. Why'd you show up looking like you just left a commune?" Naomi stood still, her hazel eyes calm but piercing. "I came to celebrate your day, Sienna," she said, her voice soft but clear. "The gift is for you and Caleb." She held out the recycled paper package, its twine bow simple but neat. Sienna's smile didn't waver, but her eyes glinted with something cruel. "Newspaper wrapping? Really?" she said, not taking the gift. "What is it? A coupon book? Oh, Naomi, you're so quaint." The crowd laughed, the sound rolling through the lobby like a wave. Someone shouted, "Send her to the gift table. She can organize the trash." Margot, the planner, stepped forward, her patience gone. "That's enough," she said, nodding to two security guards who'd materialized from the sidelines. "Ma'am, you're disrupting the event. Let's go." The guards, both tall and stone-faced, approached Naomi. One, a man named Paul, said politely but firmly, "Please come with us. We don't want to make a scene." Naomi didn't argue. She nodded, her shoulders back, and began walking toward the exit, the recycled paper gifts still in her arms. The crowd parted, their whispers sharp as knives. "What a disgrace," Leachin muttered, sipping her champagne. "Who brings a gift wrapped in trash?" Victor chuckled loud enough for Naomi to hear. "Bet she's crashing for the free food." Jax, the NFT influencer, posted a clip to Instagram captioning it, "When you invite your broke friend to $1 million wedding just to flex." The guards escorted Naomi through the ballroom, past tables draped in silk, floral arches dripping with orchids, and a string quartet playing Vivaldi. Guests leaned in, their laughter a chorus of scorn. "Look at her, still holding that sad little package," Sophia said, her phone capturing every step. "This is iconic." As Naomi passed the floral arches, Elise, Sophia, and Tara closed in, their gowns a glittering barricade. Elise leaned close, her ruby lipstick curling. "You're a walking embarrassment, Naomi. Did you think we wouldn't notice you sneaking in?" Sophia flicked a manicured nail at the recycled paper gift, knocking it slightly in Naomi's arms. "What's in there? Your life savings? Oh, wait. You don't have any?" Tara, her feather dress rustling, grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing tray and accidentally splashed it across Naomi's dress, the liquid soaking the beige linen. "Oops," Tara said, smirking as the crowd howled. "Maybe that'll teach you to dress like you belong." The live stream zoomed in, comments flooding. "She deserves it. Kick her harder." Naomi's grip on her gift tightened, her face serene, but the champagne dripped like a public branding. Elise's live stream hit 5,000 viewers, comments flooding. "Who is she? Total loser energy." Sienna posed for a photographer, her gown sparkling, and called out, "Told you not to invite her, Margot. She's embarrassing herself." Sienna climbed onto the stage, her tiara glinting as she grabbed the microphone from the MC. "Everyone, can we talk about this?" she said, her voice dripping with mock pity as she gestured at Naomi, now halfway across the ballroom with the guards. "Naomi Ellis, my old schoolmate, thought she could waltz into my wedding like this is some charity event." The crowd erupted, their laughter a vicious wave. Back in school, she was always the nice one, but look at her now, crashing my day with that rag and a gift wrapped in garbage. She held up a champagne flute, toasting the crowd to keeping our standards high and Naomi out. A guest threw an olive, hitting Naomi's shoulder, and Sienna clapped, her smile venomous. That's the spirit, she crowed as the live stream comments surged. Savage. Destroyer. Naomi's steps were steady, her face composed as if the weight of their stares was nothing new. The ballroom stretched on, each moment amplifying the humiliation. Tara tossed her hair, shouting. Maybe she thought this was a potluck. The crowd roared, their cruelty a living thing. Paul the guard leaned in slightly, his voice low. Sorry, ma'am, just doing our job. Naomi nodded, her eyes meeting his briefly. I understand, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. As the guards neared the glass doors, Sienna rushed forward, her gown trailing like a comet. She stopped in front of Paul, the guard, her eyes wide with feigned concern. Officers, you need to check her gift, she said loudly, pointing at Naomi's package. I heard she's been unstable since school. Might be something dangerous in there. The crowd gasped, phones swiveling to capture the accusation. She's always been jealous of me, Sienna continued, her voice trembling for effect. I invited her out of pity, but this is how she repays me. Guests murmured, some shouting. Search her. She's a threat. Paul hesitated, but his partner grabbed the gift from Naomi's arms, tearing the recycled paper to reveal a hand-stitched quilt. Simple but intricate. Sienna laughed, harsh and triumphant. A blanket. You're pathetic, Naomi. The crowd's jeers peaked, the live stream comments venomous. Psycho. Lock her up. Naomi stood unmoving, her eyes steady, but the lie stung like a whip as they neared the glass doors leading to the hotel's grand entrance. The crowd's taunts grew louder. Jax threw a cocktail shrimp, missing Naomi but landing near her feet. Snack for the road, he yelled, sparking cackles. Leia flicked her fan, muttering, she's ruining the vibe. A guest in a velvet tuxedo shouted, back to the thrift store, darling. The mob surged, their phones filming Naomi's exit, her linen dress catching the light, her bun still perfect despite the chaos. She walked on, posture regal, but the crowd's savagery fed on her silence. The doors loomed ahead, promising exile. Elisa's live stream hit 10,000 viewers, her voice gleeful. This is Naomi nobody thinking she could blend in with the elite, she mocked, zooming in on Naomi's flats. Bet she's sleeping in her car tonight. Comments exploded. Humiliating. Kick her out faster, a guest yelled. Make her trend for failure. The internet devoured Naomi's shame. Memes already circulating. She moved forward, serene, but the global ridicule burned, a wound no one could see. Then the doors flew open. A fleet of Rolls-Royces purred to a stop outside. The crowd froze, phones still raised, laughter choking in throats. Damien Hartley stepped out of the lead car, his presence like a storm breaking. At 42, he was a study in quiet power, tall, lean, with sharp cheekbones and dark hair streaked with silver. His tailored navy suit was understated but flawless, and his gray eyes held an intensity that could silence a room. The world knew him as the elusive billionaire behind Hartley Enterprises, a luxury empire spanning hotels, fashion houses, and prestige brands. He was a phantom, rarely photographed, his life a fortress of privacy. The ballroom went silent, the quartet's music faltering. Damien strode through the doors, his steps deliberate, ignoring the gasps, the sudden hush. The MC, a polished man named Claude, stammered into the microphone. Is that Damien Hartley? Guests exchanged stunned glances. The Damien Hartley, someone whispered. He never shows up to anything. Damien didn't acknowledge the crowd. He walked past the chandeliers, the floral arches, the aisle lined with gold-trimmed velvet, his eyes fixed on one person. Naomi stood just outside the main hall near the doors, still holding her gift, her hazel eyes softened as he approached, a small private smile touching her lips. He reached for her hand, his thumb brushing her knuckles. You okay? He asked, his voice low, meant only for her. She nodded, her smile deepening. Always, Damien. He turned to face the ballroom, his hand still holding hers, and raised his voice. each word precise and unyielding. "Apologies for the interruption," he said, his tone calm but commanding. "I just wanted to introduce the most important woman in my life. This is my wife, Naomi Hartley." A silent tremor rippled through the crowd. Glasses clinked as hands trembled. Sienna's jaw dropped, her tiara tilting slightly. Elise's phone slipped, her live stream still running, capturing the shock. Comments exploded. "What? She's his wife." Sophia's sequin gown seemed to dim, her face paling. Tara's laugh died in her throat, her phone frozen mid-record. Damien's gaze sharpened, his voice cutting through the silence. "Who ordered my wife to be escorted out? And for what reason?" No one spoke. The guards, Paul and his partner, stepped back, their faces ashen. Margot, the planner, clutched her tablet, her severe bun unraveling. Camille, the concierge, stared at the floor, her clipboard useless. The crowd's earlier bravado crumbled, their eyes darting, searching for an escape. Then a figure emerged from the aisle. Caleb Mercer, the groom, his tuxedo crisp, his face a mix of shock and recognition. At 30, he was boyishly handsome with tousled blonde hair and a reputation for charm. But his eyes weren't on Sienna. They were locked on Naomi. "Naomi," he said, his voice breaking. "It's really you." He took a step forward, ignoring the gasps. "I tried to find you for years. You were the one who stayed up late helping me finish pitch decks. You and Damien gave me my first loan, believed in me when no one else did." His voice tightened, raw with emotion. "Without you, I wouldn't be standing here today." The crowd's shock deepened, murmurs rippling. She helped him. They funded his startup. Sienna's hands clenched, her gown trembling as she stood frozen on the stage. Caleb turned to Sienna, his eyes hardening. "I can't marry someone who just humiliated the woman who changed my life," he said, his voice steady but laced with fury. "You mocked her, Sienna. Because of a dress, a gift. You don't even know who she is." He paused, his gaze sweeping the crowd. "This wedding ends right here." Caleb stepped onto the stage, his face pale but resolute, the crowd's murmurs fading to a stunned hush. He faced Sienna, her tiara now askew, and his voice rang out raw with betrayal. "You planned this, didn't you?" he said, pointing at Naomi, who stood calmly with Damien. "You invited Naomi just to humiliate her, to make yourself look better on your big day." Sienna's lips parted, but no words came. Caleb's eyes blazed. "I found your texts, Sienna, laughing with Elise about putting Naomi in her place. You used her to boost your brand." Guests gasped, phones now filming Sienna's frozen expression. "You're not the woman I thought I loved," Caleb said, his voice breaking. "This isn't a marriage. It's a performance. I'm done." He tore off his boutonniere and tossed it at her feet, and the crowd's cheers swelled. Comments on the live stream roaring, "Yes, Caleb. Ender." A microphone fell, clattering on the stage. Gasps echoed, sharp and jagged. Sienna collapsed onto a velvet chair, her eyes wide, fixed on Naomi. Sienna stumbled forward, her gown dragging, her voice shrill as she grabbed Caleb's arm. "Caleb, please," she begged, tears streaking her makeup. "This is our day. You can't throw it away over her." She pointed at Naomi, her voice cracking. "She's nothing. Just a nobody who tricked you into pity." Caleb yanked his arm free, his face stone cold. "No, Sienna. You're the one who tricked me. You built your whole life on tearing others down, and I was too blind to see it." He turned to the crowd, his voice steady. "This wedding was a lie, and I won't live one. Naomi's worth more than all of us combined." He walked away, leaving Sienna sobbing on the stage, her tiara falling to the floor. The crowd's applause thundered, the live stream hitting 100,000 viewers. Comments screaming justice. Sienna's finished. Her tiara slipped, dangling in her hair. The quartet stopped playing, the silence deafening. Elise's live stream surged to 50,000 viewers. Comments flooding. He called it off. Sienna's done. Jax's phone dropped, his NFT empire irrelevant in the face of this implosion. Naomi stood beside Damien, her hand in his, her silence louder than any speech. She didn't need to defend herself. Her grace did that. Damien's eyes softened as he looked at her, but his voice stayed firm as he addressed the crowd again. Naomi chose to live simply, not because she has to, but because she values what matters. She's my partner, my equal, in the heart of everything I've built. You judged her without knowing her worth. Damien stepped forward, his hand still holding Naomi's, his gray eyes sweeping the room with quiet authority. You thought you humiliated a nobody, he said, his voice low but piercing. But Naomi owns half of Hartley Enterprises. Every hotel, every fashion house, every brand you flaunt. This hotel, it's hers. The designers you worship, she approves their collections. Guests gasped, their diamonds suddenly garish. She's funded startups, rebuilt schools, and shaped industries, all without a single headline. And me? His lips curved faintly. I'm just the man lucky enough to stand beside her. He nodded to Clara, who projected a screen behind them, a portfolio of Naomi's investments, billions in assets flashing across the ballroom. The crowd was silent, struck as the live-stream comments exploded. She's a titan. They're untouchable. Sienna's face was gray, her world shattered by the woman she'd mocked. He nodded to a woman in a sleek black suit standing near the doors. Clara, his chief of staff, her tablet already glowing with data. Clara, pull the guest list. Cross-check it with security footage and social media. Anyone who insulted Naomi, name them. They're gone. Clara's fingers flew, her face a mask of focus. The crowd held its breath as security fanned out, their earpieces crackling. Elise was first, her gasp audible as Paul tapped her shoulder. Ma'am, you're leaving, he said, pointing to the doors. She clutched her phone, stammering. This is a mistake. But Paul was unmoved, escorting her past the floral arches, her ruby gown trailing like a fallen banner. Sophia followed, her sequins catching the light as she protested, her beauty brand empire crumbling with every step. Tara tried to hide behind a table, but a guard spotted her, and she was led out, her feathered dress wilting. Sienna's exit was chaos. Clara stepped forward, voice clear. Sienna Mallory, removed for defaming Naomi Hartley. Guards marched her out, her crystal gown snagging on a chair, tearing at the hem. She screamed, I'm the bride. But the crowd parted, their silence damning. Paparazzi swarmed outside, their flashes merciless as her tiara fell, clattering on the marble. Guests whispered, she set Naomi up. Online, her brand tanked. Sienna Mallory trended globally. Old tweets mocking the poor resurfaced, sponsors pulled out. Her empire of influence fell in minutes, her name now a cautionary tale. The ballroom was quieter now, the air heavy with reckoning. Caleb approached Naomi, his eyes raw. I'm so sorry, he said, his voice low. I didn't know you'd be here. I didn't know any of this. Naomi smiled, her hazel eyes warm. It's okay, Caleb, she said softly. You've made me proud. Caleb crossed the ballroom, ignoring the stunned guests, and stopped in front of Naomi. His eyes were wet, his voice thick with remorse. Naomi, I had no idea Sienna did this, he said loud enough for the crowd to hear. You and Damien gave me everything. My first break, my confidence, my future. I owe you more than I can ever repay. He knelt slightly, a gesture of respect, and the crowd's breath caught. You're the most genuine person I know, and she tried to crush you for it. I'm so sorry. Naomi's smile was warm, her hand gently touching his shoulder. Rise, Caleb, she said softly. You've made the right choice. The guests erupted in applause, the live-stream comments flooding. Legend. Naomi's a queen. Sienna's face crumpled, her empire of influence dissolving as Caleb's loyalty to Naomi shone. He nodded, swallowing hard, and stepped back, his future uncertain, but his gratitude clear. Damien turned to Naomi, his anger fading into something tender. You didn't have to come, he said, his voice for her alone. She smiled, touching his cheek. I wanted it for us. She stepped away, slipping into a side room for a moment. When she returned, the crowd's breath caught. Naomi wore a gown of ivory silk, its bodice embroidered with delicate gold thread, flowing like a river under the chandeliers. Her bun was undone, her chestnut hair falling in soft waves, a single pearl clip catching the light. She was stunning not because of the gown, but because of the woman inside it. Humble, fierce, herself. Damien took her hand, his eyes never leaving hers. The officiant, a silver-haired man named Father Emile, stepped forward, his robes rustling. A hush fell as he spoke, blessing the moment, though no vows were needed. Naomi and Damien had made theirs years ago in a quiet monastery under Italian stars. The guests, humbled, watched in silence, some dabbing eyes. Victor Chin's cufflinks no longer glinted. Leia's sapphire silk seemed dull. Jax's phone stayed dark. The reception unfolded under a canopy of lanterns, the cliffs alive with music and moonlight. Naomi and Damien danced, her gown shimmering, his hand steady on her back. Clara approached during a quiet moment, her tablet dark now. "It's done," she said. "The internet's obsessed. Naomi's trending as the billionaire's heart. The clip's at 20 million views." Damien chuckled, pulling Naomi closer. "She is." Naomi leaned into him, her laughter soft like a melody only he could hear. She'd walked into judgment and walked out stronger, not because she'd fought, but because she'd stayed true. The world would remember this wedding, not for its scandal or wealth, but for the woman who'd faced a crowd and shown them what worth really meant. If this story moved you, share it. Let someone else find strength in Naomi's resilience. And don't forget to subscribe, because the next time someone underestimates a quiet woman, we'll be right here to tell the story of how she rose.